It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, and now open the Joe's Karting Parts and Tire Store. If you need any parts or pieces for your vehicle, your race car, you can give Buddy a call today at the Joe's Karting, and they'll get you good and taken care of.
And we need to make sure you enunciate all these words. I got asked the other day, what is this Joe's Kartage that you guys talk about? And I explained that, no, it's Joe's Karting. It's an indoor go-kart center. The guy was looking at me. I thought it was some trucking company.
I get to talking so fast that I trip over words and then I run together, and it's all sorts of bad news.
But I got them straightened out, and they said they're going to actually stop over and give it a try. So
good. Thank God for you.
They didn't have to ship anything.
That's good. All right. Today's show, we got a big one lined up for you. Today we will review the results from Las Vegas, and then we will revise the finishing results from Las Vegas. After the post-race penalties, in turn number 2, we'll talk with Adam Armstrong about his plans for 2018. And then one of our favorite guests, McKenna Haase, joins us in turn number 3 to talk about her plans for 2018 in the number 55 360 Sprint Car at Knoxville Raceway. And then in turn number 4, we will preview today's race at ISM Raceway. That is the track formerly known as Phoenix Raceway.
Well, it's always good to get an adult's point of view from a 21-year-old when we interview McKenna.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the results at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. 2 weeks in a row. I mean, who'd have guessed it that Kevin Harvick would have brought a car 2 weeks in a row that had been, well, I mean, he didn't, but would have been, he was just unquestionably the fastest car on the track.
Well, he was unquestionably last year at Atlanta, and if the second race would have been Phoenix, everybody would have expected it, but It wasn't Phoenix.
You know, the funny thing, people are talking about, especially today at Phoenix, how good he is at ISM Raceway, but he has struggled the last 2 years we've been there, both in the spring and in the fall. Although he still has good finishes, he hasn't got the win, and only, the early spring race last year at ISM Raceway, he didn't even finish in the top 5. He finished 5th last fall at ISM Raceway. So
well, a 5th place finish isn't struggling, but compared to what he'd done in 15, 16, and 17, or 15 and 16, excuse me, where he dominated Phoenix, So for Kevin Harvick, it was a struggle, but a top 5 in a cup race is not a struggle by any means.
And I don't think he's a lights-out pick for today's race, which we'll get farther into when we talk about that in turn number 4, but maybe he is, because 2 races in a row. Dirk, you're much better with the history of the sport and the understanding of these tracks since you've been to most of them. Is Las Vegas typically a tire-wearing kind of track like we saw the previous weekend at Atlanta?
Well, a lot of that depends on what Goodyear brings for the rubber, and I think they had a tire test over the winter at Vegas.
Let me say, if Jeff Gordon was correct in his statement on Sunday during the Las Vegas race, they brought the exact same tire that they did the previous year.
Okay. Well, I thought they had a tire test there, and I could be thinking of a different track because I know they went to a couple mile and a half during the off season, and obviously they wouldn't have been going to like Kansas. They wouldn't have gone anywhere north. But they did mention that the tire wear was a lot worse than what had been in previous years. And again, the track's getting old. It's going to get worse every year. But the fall off, they said this year, was about like Atlanta, which, again, Atlanta's, I don't think they've been resurfaced for 20 some odd years.
It's the oldest surface on the circuit. It is the oldest surface on the circuit. I enunciated that.
Yeah, and they were mentioning that the surface on that track was older than some of the drivers racing on it. But that's kind of what I was trying to get to. So normally Vegas hasn't been a tire wearing track. And It's another one of your mile and a halves.
Yeah.
So
here's where I'm going with this, is that Jeff Gordon brought up another really good point that day, that he thinks that it's the low downforce that is causing these cars to slide more, which is causing the tires to wear a little bit quicker than typical. NASCAR did take a little bit of downforce away for the 2018 Aero package, but not near as much as they did for the 16 and the 17 package. I think that is what my point is that playing into Kevin Harvick's hands, who has typically been a very good driver when it came to a tire-wearing kind of track.
Well, and you also see it in Kyle Larson with the dirt track experience, Kyle Busch, and some of these guys that can really wheel. Another guy that, if Carl would go ahead and just make his comeback and make me look smart,
someday soon,
he'd be running wild on this too, because that's all he kept asking for. Last time we interviewed him, he's like, take the spoilers off, take the splitters off, let's go racing.
Which was another weird reason why he just decided to retire so quickly, because he finally got the car closer to what he'd been asking for, and it's kind of like, okay, here's your present, son. I don't want to open it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the race ended up unfolding. Kevin Harvick wins stage number 1, wins stage number 2, and ends up winning the race. So he swept the entire weekend, 60 points on the day, and he also got himself 7 playoff points to go to his run through the playoffs. Kyle Busch came home in 2nd, Kyle Larson in 3rd, Martin Truex Jr. 4th, Ryan Blaney in 5th, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Eric Jones, Paul Menard, and Eric Almirola round out your top 10. So very good day for Paul Menard. Again, we've been seeing him peeking into these top 5, top 10s.
Very good day for Penske, and that's a Penske satellite team. You had all 4 of their cars, up front.
Bad day for Chase Elliott and Kurt Busch. They were both taken out on the same lap when Kurt Busch got loose underneath Elliott, washed up the track, and took them both out. So bad days for those two. Kurt Busch finished 35th. Chase Elliott finished 34th. AJ Allmendinger finished 30th. William Byron, who's still trying to get the handle on that 24 car, finished 27th. Then we had, Darrell Wallace Jr., who was competing for Rookie of the Year, finished 21st. So some rough days for some of the big guys. And now we turn our attention to post-race and some of the penalties that came out. The big one is the obvious one with Kevin Harvick and getting penalized for that rear window coming. What Rodney Childers said, it just naturally came loose.
Well, he said it was a failure from a T-brace, but as we talked, and when I first mentioned this to you, I thought this was something along the lines of what we encountered when we were in Kansas in the fall, that was in the Ryan Blaney in the 21 with the Wood brothers, where the window tray had worked its way loose. Well, the window tray is what holds these things up, and I think that's why the penalty came fairly harsh against Kevin, was because it's something Ford had been warned about before.
And to our recollection, Ryan Blaney did not receive a points penalty or any kind of a suspension.
His qualification was disallowed, and obviously the part was checked and rechecked when he went through tech race day morning.
So here's the penalty. Kevin Harvick loses 20 championship driver points, and the team loses 20 owner points. He lost his 7 playoff points that he gained from winning stage 1, stage 2, and the race. His crew chief, Rodney Childers, was fined $50,000 and suspended for 2 races.
No, I didn't see there were Childers was suspended.
Sorry.
The car chief.
Car chief, Robert Smith, was suspended for 2 races.
Okay.
Childers still going to be at ISM Raceway today. I want to bring up this point because we had some conversations with some people on the Facebook page. This is still an encumbered finish. NASCAR actually sent out a press release earlier this year and said we will no longer be using the term encumbered because it confused too many people. Here's what it boils down to, and I've had this fight with so many. You and I have had talked about it. I shouldn't say fight, but we've had this discussion. Kevin Harvick, the only benefit to him on Sunday at Las Vegas was that he now gets one more win in his record book. He doesn't get to carry that win into the playoffs. He doesn't get the bonus playoff points. He loses the money. He doesn't lose all the money, but he gets fined for
well,
a
he
substantial
didn't even get
fine.
fined, just the crew chief. So, not
right.
the driver.
So it's basically an encumbered win, but NASCAR doesn't call it that anymore. They've removed the benefits that he got from that win, but there's still just one more mark in his win category.
Well, and to me, they could have just gone ahead and taken the win away, and he still gets 40 driver points because he swept the weekend with 60.
Yeah.
The playoff points now, And it's too early now to tell if those will be a big thing. They might show to be a big thing in October, but right now it's nothing because he's already in the chase with his Atlanta win.
And I want to point this out. If this ever happens in the future, that 7 playoff points isn't a standard. He lost the amount of playoff points that he gained for that from that win. So that could shift. He got the maximum amount of points, so that's the most you're ever going to – well, I shouldn't say the most you're ever going to because there could be a more severe penalty that they may hit him even harder just to deter him. But
well, and they also last year for the World 600, they gave 8 points.
Yeah. So there could be for the Coca-Cola 600. There could be that. It's just a different way of looking at it. NASCAR got so much pushback for just using this term encumbered that they finally just said we're not going to use it anymore, although the penalty is just as powerful as it was last year.
Well, and if this would happen again, the penalty will be unbelievable
for the 14.
Or even for a Ford. If it comes back in a Ford car with this same issue, the penalty is going to make this look like child's play. And if it comes back for the Ford car, the suspensions will be incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll be unheard of.
So if you are playing along in the season-long contest and you happen to have taken Kevin Harvick, which 6 people did take Kevin Harvick on Sunday at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, unfortunately they now lost 20 championship points. So when you look at the rankings, now that the penalty has been out, it's been shuffled a little bit. So Kevin Harvick only got you 40 points on Sunday as opposed to 60, like it was looking like he was going to get you.
But it was still probably it was still in the top 10 on points.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 40 points was a big get. In fact, let me look at the final points standings.
Blaney would have had a few more than that. I think Keselowski might have had a few more than that.
Kyle Larson got 50 points on the day. Looks like he was the largest points getter.
That should be tops.
Which that's who I took. I was so smart for that.
Well, I was going to take Harvick, but I figured he'd cheat. So
Kyle Busch got 43. Martin Truex Jr. got 46. Ryan Blaney got 48, and Brad Keselowski 41. Joey Logano 43. So all those drivers got more points.
But he was still a top 10
than the winner. So picks for the weekend: 27 people took Kyle Larson, 18 people took Martin Truex Jr., 7 people took Brad Keselowski, 7 people took Kyle Busch, and 7 people took Ryan Blaney. Again, 6 took Kevin Harvick. From there, Kurt Busch was the next big. Oh, that was a tough one for people who took Kurt Busch because
he had a good car.
He was looking like he had a good car, but just because of that slip in turn 3 and ruined his day, he had a rough. He ended up getting a rough finish.
And that's his home track. So I mean that. Definitely something that he certainly wasn't trying to do.
Oddly
it just
enough,
happened.
and oddly enough, he hasn't ran that great at that track.
Well,
and I was kind of thinking about that on Sunday. It's not like I-80 being your home track where you used to race there weekly, and so you know it pretty well. Las Vegas is just a place he grew up in. He probably didn't race it that often.
Well, he raced at the Bull Ring a little bit, and Kyle finally won in the Truck Series on Friday night. That was the first win he's had at that at that track in any series,
and getting a little closer to his 200 I retire mark for winning in the Truck Series. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back at turn number 2. Adam Armstrong, driver of the 6A car, and we're not going to give away what he's going to be driving this year because he'll tell you that in turn number 2. Then in turn number 3, driver of the 55 Sprint car at Knoxville Raceway. We can talk about that because she raced it last year. She plans on racing it again this year. That is McKenna Haase will join us in turn number 3. Then we will preview today's race at ISM Raceway in turn number 4. We'll be back.
And what do we have that we're giving away today? Do we have something autographed maybe from Miss McKenna Haase that we can give away?
We do. And so I'll ask you this. It's all over her Facebook page. So here's your question, and I just thought this off the top of my head because I kind of forgot to do the giveaway before you just reminded me. Thank you, Dirk. What is McKenna Haase's nickname? It's all over her car. There's a good hint for you. It's all over her car. What is McKenna Haase's nickname? 402-573-0590. First person to call up and answer that question is going to win themselves a McKenna Haase autographed hero card. And it also comes with a coupon, but I think the coupon's expired. But you still get the coupon, and it's an autographed McKenna Haase hero card.
And maybe they'll honor it.
402-573-0590. Call up, be the first one to answer what is McKenna Haase's nickname, and you're going to win that prize. We'll be back here on the Front Stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
This week's Young Gun is third-generation driver Kale Kaziski, who's working hard to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather Bob, uncles Joe and Steve, and father Ed. Kale started his racing career just 3 years ago behind the wheel of a Grand National late model. In 2016, Kale claimed Rookie of the Year honors in the state of Iowa. Kale is looking to improve on his 9th-place finish at I-80 Speedway last season by jumping into the top 5 this season. He's also looking forward to heading to Shelby County Speedway this year whenever his schedule allows. Outside of racing, Kale enjoys playing sports and is currently attending classes at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln for construction management. Someday, Kale wants to compete for a track championship and a national championship like his father before him. In just a few weeks, the number 35 Imperial Tile MW Construction Rawson & Sons Roofing late model, driven by this week's young gun Kale Kaziski, will be making its debut at I-80 Speedway. Thanks to Craig Kelly of Sarah Kelly & Sewell Personal Injury Attorneys for supporting this week's young gun.
For almost 70 years, Sarah Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 2, time to talk with Adam Armstrong, local dirt track driver who has raced quite a few different things under the sun. He is the sun, and he is the son. That was a terrible transition there. Of Roy Armstrong, who's a racer at Eagle Raceway, several-time track champion. But we're here to talk about Adam Armstrong. Adam, how you doing, bud?
Doing great. Just getting ready to go out and bring Nashville.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a cold one, but it's finally dirt racing is in the air.
Yes, sir. It's it's been pretty chilly this week. We lucked out, missed the snow. The sun's out, about 45, almost 50, and I'm ready to watch some racing.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful time, and good luck. Are you just going down to spectate, or you've got a ride for this weekend?
No. I could have drove a couple guys' cars, but I just got a lot of new cars that I built over the winter, guys that are new to the track, so I kind of want to just help them out and just do the best I can to get them guys fast, and so we can win some races.
Yeah, remind me, you're working for Jet Chassis,
Racing,
right?
Yep. I build all the stock cars and hobby stocks, and help out with whatever I can around here.
Tough news going around about Johnny, though.
Yeah, he was here, and he's been complaining about his eye here the last few days, and he actually, a couple weeks ago, finally went in, and they did some stuff to his eye, and it's his retina. His retina is actually coming out of his eye.
Oh, my gosh.
Which is something you don't hear of, and it sounds terrible, and so they did a temporary deal to try and heal it, but it didn't work, so he actually just went up and had surgery today, and old Johnny, he still wants to try and get back and go to practice tonight, but you got to hand it to him. At least he still wants to do it, because I can't imagine having a needle and all that stuff going in your eye and still wanting to go out and race. So
no kidding.
Well,
pretty impressive.
Detached retina is not all that rare, but it's common in like boxers and the MMA guys,
right.
with the jolts to the head. So
yeah, that's what they said. It was something, either he took a shot in the head or a hard wreck, where his head moved hard. And,
did he mouth off to the wife?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It could have been the daughter too, but I don't know.
It could have been any one of them. Got a little backhand there. Well, let's talk a little bit about you. Okay, so in the off season, you've been playing around on the chassis building for Jet Racing, building hobby stocks and stock cars, and it's always been fun watching you on Facebook, because it seems like there's something new coming down the pike for you every month, and this year you've got something new again.
Yes, I was planning to run hobby again, and kind of been taking some steps down. Want to try and do some more stuff with my family. We're trying to go to buy a house this year, so just taking a step back from racing, and and I had a guy from Arizona that bought my car, so I sold that, so I don't even have anything. And last fall, my buddy owns a micro Sprint and told me I could drive it, so drove it a few times and rolled it once, and I was hooked. It's a blast. It's a we run it as a non-wing, which I've kind of watched the wing and the non-wing, and the non-wing guys look way more out of control and a lot more fun to me. But that's going to be the plan. We're going to get it wrapped, put some of my sponsors on it, and we're planning to run the J Husker Series. I think the first race is in Fairbury, March or April 28th, and it's kind of cool. It's the J Husker racing has been around for a while. I haven't really followed it much, so I've never even been to a lot of these tracks that we're going to go to, and it's kind of cool. You go, and there's these real tiny little tracks, and you get out there, and you can run 3 wide, and it's a lot of fun.
Well,
it's kind of something new to do, and kind of new crowd to play with.
So those run, aren't they like a 600cc cycle engine?
Yes. It's supposed to be a 600 cc, off of a motorcycle, and these things only weigh like 700 pounds with you in it, so they get around the track pretty good. They say that they don't go to any 3/8 mile track because somebody could get hurt because they go so fast. But
wow.
I was kind of wanting to get it out and take it to Spring Nationals tonight and just practice it. But they told me no, that wouldn't be a good idea. So
you don't have any strings you can pull there in your hometown?
Oh, I could, I'm sure, but I'd hate to have to explain what happened, if something did go wrong.
Well, you already said you got it upside down, so you know what not to do, right?
Yeah, that's we were at Clay Center, Kansas last fall, and the right front wheel bearing come apart, and so the wheel come off the front axle, and I saw it come off. I watched it take off down the straightaway, and I didn't know what to do, so I just rolled out of the throttle, and as soon as the nose dove and dug in, it took off rolling. So at least I got that out of the way. Maybe that'll be the end of that. But
how much thought did you get through there from when the wheel detached to when the car started rolling? How many thoughts did you go through your head?
Well, I had enough thought to think, well, should I get out of the gas or not? But I figured I got to get out of the gas before I get in the corner anyway. But it come off basically coming out of the corner, and I finally lifted going into the corner.
Yeah, you were going to have to lift, and so it was inevitable what was going to happen.
Right. Man, and the crazy thing is the only thing we had to replace was the front axle. I mean, no wing or anything. It didn't bend the rear axle, didn't bend any wheels or tires. So I was pretty impressed with that. I was kind of surprised.
So what's ideal situation? What's next step for you? Are you talking 305, 360, 410, World of Outlaws, Truck Series?
Well, I mean, exactly. I'll drive anything. I've always told people that, and that my old lady, she's not real fond of the sprint cars, but my son loves them. So that would be cool to someday, maybe get to run maybe like a 305 or something. But my son absolutely loves those at Eagle Raceway. That's his favorite classes, them sprint cars. Mm-hmm. But budget wise, it's not in my future. But you never know, someone might offer a ride or something. But I think the next step would probably be get through this year and keep building cars, and maybe over the winter either build a sport mod or a hobby.
Well, I got to give you credit because you're probably one of the more talented drivers in this area, and you've proven that with whatever you're behind the wheel of. You find victory lane quite often, and yet you have the discipline that your family's kind of priority one, and so rather than racking up a credit card bill and trying to balance both worlds, you're focusing on the family.
Yep, and that's how I was raised. My father, he raised me, it was just me and him, and if he had to go buy something, he would try and build it first. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have a lot of money racing, and that's kind of why he stayed in the class that he's raced. He's always been able to be real competitive, and he's always raced in something that he could afford. I get to the point where I've always had great sponsors. Sponsors is what's kept me going and gotten me up to where I have been, but I can already tell once the season's going, how it's going to affect me and my family. And last year I was running that modified, and I could just tell that it wasn't going to be a good summer if I kept going with it. So we backed back down and got to a hobby, something that I could take my son and go to the races with, and I wouldn't have to be spending the whole evening on the car. I could just show up and unload, go race, and spend some time with him. And that's one of the nice thing about the lower divisions is there's not so much time and adjusting that tire prep that you have to do. And I don't I got some buddies that help me, but a lot of them work late and work weekends, so I can't always have everybody with me. And that also plays a part in what you race too, and how much help you can have during the week. And that was another thing last summer and spring. I mean, I was spending probably 20-25 hours in the shop, getting that mod ready, and that's I just couldn't do that when I got my fiance and my son at home, and we want to do stuff on the weekends too. So you got to think about that too.
Well, I think that's something that a lot of fans, it's not necessarily that they neglect. It doesn't occur to you that when you see that guy taking laps around Eagle, Beatrice, I-80, Crawford, wherever you're at, that he's already got probably a half a week's worth of work in the car at the shop. And
exactly.
You could have very easily shown up in that modified, dropped the tailgate, and got out and raced, but you'd have been back of the pack, and that's not any fun.
Yeah, no, and that's not how. If I'm going to go to a race, I want to actually be able to have a chance to win, and so that's kind of where we were at when we decided to step back down.
So how old's your son?
He's going to be 5 here March 15th.
Well, crew chief in a go-kart sounds like it's coming up real fast.
Yep. And then I got another one on the way too. So
oh boy,
and we're gonna be busy for a while.
Are you working on an over the wall crew?
Well, we could be. If we had just a few more, we could have a pit crew.
Adam Armstrong, driver of the 6A. You'll see him in a micro sprint in 2018. Best of luck to you, and Bud, stay safe for us, please.
Hey, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for talking to me.
Have a good one.
Adam.
Thank you. See you guys.
And we'll be back here on the front stretch.
This May, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled night where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series night race. Only at Kansas Speedway May 12th. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. How to get you turn number 3, brought to you by Kansas Speedway. Tickets for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Saturday night race, May 12th, are on sale now. Call 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com. We're talking with another young dirt driver that is working incredibly hard to be a part of that May 12th race. Someday soon, she'll be returning laps at Kansas Speedway and all throughout the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. But for now, she's racing weekly at Knoxville Raceway in the 55, and we're talking with the one and only McKenna Haase. How you doing, hun?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm sorry. I can't believe I just called you hun. I did that. That is terrible.
That's one Iowan to another.
Hey, it's totally fine.
I hate doing. I'm so sorry I did that. I can't believe that. Anyways, please forgive me, and we'll try to recover this interview. How's the winter been for you?
It's actually been really good. It started off a little rough, but we've had a lot of good things going on. So
you're still taking classes over at Drake and hitting the books pretty hard?
Yeah, I backed off a little bit. I switched to part-time at Drake. I was elected president of the Drake Investment Club this year. I'm on the College of Business Leadership Council and the American Marketing Association, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. And then I also have a part-time job at the Drake Law School, and then still running the sprint car team and the driver development team.
Okay. I thought my life was busy.
I can't resist. So being the president of the investment club, how's Trump working out for you?
We don't always look at macroeconomic factors a whole lot, so it's not always a huge deal with us. But
well, I need to come take some classes from you because, like we've talked about, oftentimes I've been lightly investing in the stock market and I took a couple of bad investments, so I need to come get some better tips from you guys.
Well, we would love to have you at our meetings.
My niece is actually looking at going to Drake, so I may have to send her over to you for some tips and tricks.
Yeah, please do.
All right, so we're talking about the 55. Last year you moved up into the 360 class and also did some testing with an ARCA team. And so what's your plans for 2018?
So my plans for 2018, we're running 360 again. However, my goal is to travel more. Last year wasn't probably our best year, I guess, depending on how you look at it. I mean, I was a rookie, and we didn't get a whole lot of seat time, and running Knoxville is obviously really tough at that level. We had a new crew last year, and new engine builder and new chassis manufacturer, so it was just kind of a lot of new stuff. And so we learned a lot, but now I'm hoping that we can apply that to the season and have some stronger finishes. And so part of that is getting more seat time, though. So my goal is to get a second engine right now, or at least access to one, so that we can race more and travel.
And are you still planning on racing weekly at Knoxville and then adding some traveling dates on top of that?
Yeah, we weren't originally. I was hoping to do more traveling, but just kind of the way things worked out, I think we will be at Knoxville weekly and then hopefully adding more shows on.
You looking at maybe trying to add a couple of the ASCS shows or a couple Nebraska Sprint shows? Because I know they get over there and up to like Jackson and stuff, or you got something else in mind?
Yeah, I think we're going to try and run definitely some Sprint Invader stuff, maybe some Nebraska stuff. Basically try and stick around here or just whatever's available, I guess, locally.
Yeah, you probably don't want to travel too far quite yet.
Yeah, it really just depends. I mean, I guess if it was a case where we've, talked about if we have a sponsor in a certain location far away, but other than that, probably not.
Yeah, that travel cost, it's tough to, it'll sneak up on you pretty quickly.
Yes, absolutely.
Anything else for this year? Can you give us any hints on what you're working on for outside of sprint car racing? Anything with NASCAR or IndyCar or any F1? You working on any F1 deals?
I don't know if I can say too much. I guess I'll say I'm still very passionate about doing stuff outside of sprint cars, and I hope to continue moving forward in that this year, and maybe trying some different routes to do that, I guess you could say. So I guess we'll see what happens. I would say that personally, probably the most frustrating thing so far just in that area has just been, well, I guess in any area, is not, again, like I said, not getting enough seat time in my sprint car, and then again on asphalt, like basically not in any area. That's just kind of my goal, is just to get more laps, because it just puts so much pressure on you, whether I'm getting in a stock car or getting in my sprint car and having to go out and perform, with the best of them right away, when you don't have quite as much experience. And so, yeah, hopefully we can accomplish more seat time in both.
Well, and that's got to be really difficult because you're spreading yourself pretty thin with forms of racing that are pretty different. I mean, when you're talking about going from a asphalt stock car to a dirt sprint car, there's some different nuances that you got to learn one before you can learn the other one.
Yeah, I mean, they are totally opposite. It's not I mean, I guess it depends on the driver. It's not terribly difficult to transition. It's more so just, because like I said, everything is like the complete opposite. It's more so just refining. And I will say, and I guess it depends too on the type of dirt racing that you do or whatever, because I know for me, I'm going from a half mile, that's my home track, and I'm there every week, and I'm used to running full throttle, and it's just brutal, to, I've been on a quarter-mile asphalt track. And so, I don't know, maybe if I was used to racing on a littler track in general, but to go even the track size for me was totally opposite. I said I felt like a football player in ballet, because it's just, everything's got to be you have to be so easy on the throttle and so smooth, and you got to have a rhythm, and I'm just, if you drive harder in those, you go slower. And so I just had to tone it down quite a bit, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's what I was.
Get rid of those bad habits.
That's what I was going to say. And you don't get enough laps. You mentioned rhythm, and you don't get enough laps in those small test sessions to even think about developing a rhythm if you don't race that kind of track.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest thing has just been uncovering my unconscious habits, because obviously when you get in the stock car, your attitude is not to just drive it in there like your sprint car and drive it in there full throttle and throw it in there. It's nothing, that part. It's more so, when you're rolling through the turn and you go to get back in the gas and your spotter's yelling at you because you're getting on it too hard. hard. Well, it's because you're not used to being out of the gas that long anyway, and you're getting antsy to get back in it. And that's something you don't think of. And so it's just working on those little bitty habits.
Yeah, it'd be a little easier for you since, if you had a bunch of sprint car time on a quarter-mile track, or if you were in the stock car on a half-mile track. The rhythm would come a little bit easier because it would be more in sync with what you're used to doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's so tough to compare, apples to apples on any of it, just because, like I said, maybe if I had, 1,000 races of any kind under my belt or whatever, and then you get in stock car or, vice versa, or even simulators, I guess, nowadays with iRacing and stuff like that, that plays a huge role, and that's something that I don't utilize, and all of that stuff makes a huge difference. It really truly does. It's amazing going into a night at Knoxville. I can't tell you how many nights I've left there thinking like, wow, I've learned more tonight. You learn so much each and every night. Those incrementally make a difference.
A couple of weeks ago, about a month ago on February 19th, you posted a heck of I don't want to call it an article, but just your thoughts on the racing community on your Facebook page. And it tore across the social media world pretty heavily. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about it because I think you nailed some of the issues that our sport faces. I think you nailed them on the head pretty heavily. And a lot of them has to do with the main theme of it, which is respect.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, actually, because I am very passionate about it. And I guess I just feel like, and I did write it actually for, kind of in response to, it was shortly after the 500, and there was just kind of all this stuff on social media about, dirt track racing versus asphalt racing, and, why one's better than the other, and this and that, and why NASCAR is terrible, and whatever. And it just, I don't know, I guess it just kind of gets to me because I just feel like sometimes you go to the track and there's just this tension. It's not like when I go to a team building conference for, school or something like that, where it's all these people that are there and pumped up. And I think that the heart of that is disrespect. I think everybody's always judging everybody all the time. And whether they say anything or not, you just can almost feel it. And I guess I just remember being kind of like 17, 18, at Knoxville or, wherever. And, back then I looked like I was 10 and I'm there running my own team, and you get on social media and there's just people blasting you about, whatever. And it's like, look, like when I got started in this sport, I was a 10-year-old girl in her bedroom that sat there for hours every night cutting out, NASCAR article clippings. And, I still to this day have my math calculations on my little puppy notepad about how I was going to run a race team someday. And there was nobody there to see that. Nobody. Yeah. Or the nights, I lay there bawling my eyes out because I wanted to be a race car driver. And then finally I make it to Knoxville, and then everybody just slamming you. And it's like, look, like that's not why I got started. And I actually have a necklace that says, remember why you started. And I was like, I got started in the sport because I love the sport and I love to go fast. And I didn't set out to be a race car driver, and I didn't set out to be a superstar. I set it out because I love the sport. And in all actuality, I think that's why everybody's at the racetrack, I hope, because they love sport. And, and I just think everybody plays a role. And like on any given night at Knoxville, I get to the track at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And one of the first places you can find me is in the storage closet of the concession stand, hanging out with the people that are prepping the food. And we have a blast. We play music, throw a little party back there, and nobody would probably ever know it, but those people matter. Because if they weren't there, we wouldn't have food to eat during the races. And I just think respect that, and the drivers. I've driven asphalt, I've driven dirt. Both are incredibly difficult. And, respect them because they're out there risking their lives and they're doing something that you can never understand if you've never done it. And I think being a female too, for all the female drivers out there, I think that's probably an area too where respect comes into play for us, because I know that racing, a lot of the other women at track are girlfriends and wives and mothers or whatever of the other drivers. And I think obviously we're not going to maybe be best friends because we're competing against their husbands, but I do think, that there should be a level of respect there for what, we're out there doing. And I just think across the board.
Just a general kindness. I mean, the world in general is just missing some more kindness and smile and helpfulness. It's just it could turn very negative very quickly. And I feel your pain exactly. Since the Daytona 500, I don't know how many hours I've spent on Facebook fighting with people about NASCAR sucks. Well, you know what? I hate to break it to you, but if NASCAR ever went away, dirt racing would be in a terrible spot. And if dirt racing ever went away, NASCAR would be in a terrible spot. The two need each other, and if we just worked together, we could make racing so much better.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, I saw these people arguing, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to argue, so I'm just going to go write some article about like respect in general and just try and include everybody in there and just throw it out there and see what happens, because I'm not going to to lie, there's a lot of people in this sport that probably think I don't like them or, whatever. I mean, and a lot of that's just flat competition, but I do respect everybody. And I do care a lot about the people in our sport. And I would do anything for even my worst enemies, if they needed me. And so I just think we're very lucky to be a part of this community, and we all play a role. And I just think, our community's too small to try and tear any aspect of it down. And, I just, especially, even like just running my own team and stuff. And from the business side of it, I see a large need for respect, because obviously the financial tension of racing, I think, is where a lot of that disrespect comes from, is people get jealous about who has what and what kind of equipment and what sponsors. And gosh, I think at the end of the day, we all wish we could have, 100 race cars sitting in the shop, but you got to do what you can do, and the money has to come from somewhere. Yeah. And you got to kind of make it happen for yourself. And I try and remind myself every day, McKenna, you're not entitled to a certain amount of sponsors or a certain budget, and of course I'd love to race more than 15 times a year, but if I want that, then guess what? Go bang down 50 more doors. I mean, that's what I try and tell myself, because it gets easy to get on social media and get jealous of what other people have.
Yeah. Well, Dan and I just get into the point where, look, you're going to come on here and say NASCAR sucks. Just don't even say it. Why are you trolling the page about, where we're talking about the Daytona 500? Just skip the page. If all you're going to do is come on here and say it sucks, then we don't need that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, right on you, McKenna, for landing that. I think you hit it right on the head, and I can't say it enough, and I'm sorry if it seems like I'm talking down, but for a 21-year-old to have that kind of mentality, we would be far better off if a lot of people, not just in your generation, but also in their 30s and their 40s and in their 50s, had the head on their shoulder like you do.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I had a couple people message me, and they were like, hey, what was with the rant? Is something wrong? And I'm like, no, it wasn't a rant at all. I mean, it was, it's just something I've been feeling for a while, and thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah. Well, good job on that. And by the way, happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much.
Do you remember much of your first 21st birthday?
Yeah, I went to school, went to the gym.
She had an exciting one.
Drank a glass of water, went to bed. So,
man. But you got to go to Dingus for the first time.
I did. About a week or two later, we were at that KRCO auction that raises money for the drivers when we get injured. And so I went down there and attended the auction. And then, yes, they did walk me across the street afterwards and introduced me to Dingus. And so that was, that was kind of cool, I guess, just to see it, because everybody always talk about it. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting place, but I could tell you, I mean, if you're not a drinker, it's not going to be that much fun. Yeah, you're going to be the one taking care of everyone, and that's never a fun thing.
I was taking care of Dan the only time I got to go, but I can pretty much guarantee it probably wasn't as much fun, or there wasn't as much going on as a Knoxville night when you guys were there.
Yeah, I mean, there was just everybody at the auction that attended the auction was there, and so hung out for a while, and went home and wrote a paper. So.
The first time I went to the Knoxville Nationals, I got to have fun, and I never even went into Dingus, and it was thanks to the young lady on the phone. McKenna Haase took us down to Slideways Karting Center and whooped my butt several times in racing, and we had a good old time, and we never even stepped foot close to Dingus. So you can have fun over at Knoxville, and you don't need to have a drink over at Dingus, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, best of luck to you in the 55. Can't wait to see you out at the track at Knoxville, and we hope you make your way over closer to our area a little bit, and we'll get you on the show some other time.
Well, I'm sure we'll see her at Newton. Yeah. We always do.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. McKenna Haase in the 55. You'll see her at Knoxville. Good luck this year.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, McKenna.
Bye.
So again, that was McKenna Haase in the 55, and I want to say a big thank you to her. We talk about this every time we finish talking to her. She's ever since I first met her, she's just impressed me with how adult she thinks. But she is still living the life of a 21-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever she was at the time. She's not this grown up, missing out on her childhood. She's got an amazing head on her shoulders.
Well, every once in a while, that a 12-year-old shows up, and sneaks through there. But I mean, she's very mature for her age, and I'm gonna say congrats to her parents for doing a wonderful job.
Any parent out there, if you're looking for your child to have a role model in life, McKenna Haase. She's a very smart, very well-grounded, driven young individual, and you always worry about role models in life because you look up to that Bill Romanowski, and then 5 years, 10 years later, you find out that he's been doing drugs and stealing and beating and all this stuff, and you're never. I would be absolutely dumbfounded if I found out McKenna Haase did anything, even cuss. I would be completely flabbergasted.
Well, and I mean, one of those happened this year, to the former NASCAR driver Rick Crawford getting arrested. I mean, I've known Rick for close to 20 years, and it was like, you got to be kidding me type thing.
There's very few people in this world that you would ever bet that on, and that'd be McKenna. I would bet my life that she's going to go through life on the straight and narrow. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back at turn number 4. We're going to preview today's race at ISM Raceway, formerly known as Phoenix Raceway, and we'll talk a little bit about the Crewman for a Day contest. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
For almost 70 years, Sarah Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
This May, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled night where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Night Race. Only at Kansas Speedway May 12th. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around the professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Rolling into turn number 4, just about ready to wrap this baby up. Brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. If you haven't gone and tried out their new menu, they've had several new menu items that they've released with spring just around the corner. And yes, I know it seems difficult, but yes, spring is around the corner. It will be here eventually, and Quaker Steak has launched their new menu for 2018 and for the spring. So they change it up every couple of months. They bring in some new items. They drop off some of the ones that have lost their popularity. But get over to Quaker Steak and Lube and enjoy some. They got some really good new items on the menu that are going to be delicious food. The official watering hole of the front stretch. You can catch all of today's race at ISM Raceway, formerly known as Phoenix Raceway, on Fox and MRN at 2:30. So that's also when all the picks are due for today's race.
And it should be a good one.
Absolutely. Phoenix has always been a fun race. This time last year at ISM Raceway, Ryan Newman got the win. I believe it was a fuel mileage thing, wasn't it? Or did he stay out on 2 tires?
He stayed out late in the race. And I don't think he took any tires, but they weren't that far on the set of tires. But still, all the leaders came in, and I want to say he was running about 12th, and he stayed out. And I think there was 3 or 4 cars that stayed out, and a couple of the others bounced around a little bit. I was thinking it was maybe Austin Dillon and somebody else, and they bounced around like in the 2nd and 3rd spot, and he was able to get away because it was only a 2-lap dash.
And how hard? I mean, if you're talking about any other driver, nobody has a more wide car than Ryan Newman. Everybody has talked about how hard it is to get around him.
And the neat part is every once in a while you can ask a few people, he's wide when he's behind you and going to pass you.
So Newman ends up getting the win, and Kyle Larson came home 2nd, Kyle Busch in 3rd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 4th, and Brad Keselowski rounded out your top 5. The fall race last year, Matt Kenseth gets the win, and Chase Elliott came home in 2nd, Martin Truex Jr. in 3rd, Eric Jones in 4th, and Kevin Harvick rounded out your top 5. Now remember, Eric Jones, who finished 4th, is now in that race-winning number 20 car, so that could be a difference maker for Eric Jones with picking up a couple extra spots and getting the win for today's race. The sequence will go 75 laps will be the end of stage 1, 150 will be the end of stage 2, and then we will take it to the checkered flag on lap 312. Again, the coverage is on Fox and MRN starting at 2, with the picks being due at 2:30. Now, the Pick'ems contest, season-long Pick'ems contest, make sure your picks are in on time. Dirk, you pointed this out last weekend. I want to bring it up again this weekend. We're not doing the 5-week contest this weekend. It doesn't start till next weekend in Auto Club, so don't worry about making picks for this weekend. But any of your picks that you make for the season long don't affect the 5-week, and the 5-week don't affect the season long, any of which way. They're built on the same system, but they're two totally different contests. And for any of you that like to get into the conspiracy theory stuff, this is kind of the first short track, even though it's 1 mile. It's not what we all consider a half-mile short track, but this is a track where retaliation will show its ugly head, and has in the past, and it gets kind of exciting when it does. So, if you like that kind of thing, you might want to tune in and watch the whole race, because it could happen at any time. And you want to talk about cutting that dog leg short, that's always a fun one to watch, because you'll be watching, all of a sudden you'll see a guy dart to the bottom of the screen. You're like, wait, what happened there? Yeah. Especially on the first lap when they're just trying to get moved around. And so there's a lot of room ever since they paved that inside part of the turn where it used to all be grass.
Basically,
now they
like
go down.
half the infield.
Yeah. Now they go down and take advantage of that real estate and then slide up the track, and they cut it short just a little bit. Some drivers can find the advantage to it, some of them can't, and it really depends on your position, the way you're going into the corner. So it's interesting to watch that. Adds for a little bit of a different groove that they can go through, and that's always fun to do. And I mean, as we talked earlier, this is another track where Kevin Harvick didn't really have a great 2017, but he's been a dominant driver there, won a lot of races. It kind of feels like he's back on track. Like he did struggle a little bit in 2016 and 17 overall in the season after winning his championship, but it feels like last two races he's back. I mean, he's just been so dominant. Yeah, let's face it, he looked like Martin Truex the last two races. He did. And Martin Truex is still trying to find his way around. And I applaud NASCAR. They are working diligently with their new tech system. You're not seeing quite the problems you saw at this time last year. This time last year, like when we went to California, you saw it was like 8 or 9 cars that didn't even make a qualifying lap. And I mean, even at Kansas, we saw 6 or 7. But NASCAR is really going after them, and I think some of the teams are not happy that they're losing a car chief if they just miss 3 attempts, trying to get through that thing. But if they miss the 4th, then they lose the crew chief. So you haven't seen anybody go for a 4th attempt yet. Well, I really like that NASCAR is doing that. They're looking at the situation and saying, okay, this car's not passing tech inspection. Basically, whose fault is that? And it's not the driver's fault, and it's not the crew chief's fault. The crew chief has a little bit to do about it, but the car is the car chief's responsibility. He works with the crew chief to set the car up a specific way, and NASCAR's looked at it and said, that's your ball, bud, and you're not passing inspection, so you're out first. If you fail a 4th time, we're kicking your crew chief out too. Well, the car chief takes his orders from the crew chief, so It is the crew chief that's responsible for the car, but I think part of that is that driver coalition part where they said, we want our crew chief there for the race. Take the car chief first. Very few of the car chiefs are even working during the actual race. Oh, sure they are. They're sitting up on the pit box talking. I mean, they're basically an engineer. And everyone's got their responsibilities. Believe me, they're not even close to an engineer. They're not even close to that. But they're sitting on the. I mean, you see what Ron Malik is, the crew chief for the 48. He has sat on that pit box. The crew chief is. I'm saying the car chief. I know, and Ron Malik is the car chief for the 48. Well, sits right next to Chad Knaus, and they work together to make sure that they're getting that 48 as fast as it can. My point is, they're not a pit crew guy, right? And anybody can sit up there and chart times, and that's what that guy does if he's doing it for that team. It's different from team to team. He also could be an engineer, but statistically they're not. That's not their deal. They're in charge, and they're making sure that checklist gets marked off, and if something's missed on that checklist, because the crew chief's in rehashing what they're going to do with the driver and whatnot, so he's in charge of that car when it's in the garage. But he's not the one responsible for some of this stuff.
again, I think NASCAR's been asked to lay some of the penalty on him. I'll guarantee you he didn't make the call on this, but Rodney Childress said the part failed. Now, that would be something, that could get back on the crew chief. But, again, my experience tells me no way that happened. Or car chief, right.
That's can we get a different name for this guy? Because it's way too close to crew chief.
Crew chief number 2.
It's too early in the morning to get these right.
But, it's like I said, it's not, to me, it's not that big a deal when you suspend him. But if you get it and you suspend the crew chief, that is a big deal. And you don't ever hear the car chief taking the crew chief's place when they've been suspended. You never hear that.
Yeah, you do.
No,
they filled in. Ron Malik has filled in for Chad Knaus a couple of times.
Basically, you've got a little bit different team there. That's a one-off.
But what a better team to clone. I mean, basically, Stewart Haas Racing was built off of the way Hendrick did things.
Well, but the last year and a half, or especially the start of this year, I mean, at least Jimmy didn't finish in the bottom 5 for Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's it. Boy, how far back in the points is he? That's unusual and pretty crazy.
But, he's got his midsummer slump going right now. So when we get into June or July, he ought to start tearing it up.
Oh, when it gets slick, when Tony Stewart was always the best, but actually
Jimmy Johnson's not a slick track driver.
And it was a joke because everyone said that Tony Stewart's the best during the summer when it gets slick, and statistically, he actually wasn't.
Right.
But anyways, so that's
and this year he's going to be the best at Knoxville.
Yeah. Tony,
July
27th.
I was going to say, I think it's the Newton weekend. We might just have to doodle on down there because that's like a 2 o'clock day start at Newton that day.
Oh, my God. Can we get the conspiracy theory started? If he's going to be at Knoxville on Saturday night, will he be at Newton on Sunday in the Xfinity Series?
Well, I doubt he'll be there in a car, but he might be there hanging out.
Nope. I think he's going to be there in a car.
He'll probably flip Carl for it.
Racing News has a big story that Tony Stewart's going to be starting his own Xfinity car.
I didn't read that yet.
Yeah, well, don't worry. It's not real. All right, that's going to do it for us today. I want to say a big thank you to Adam Armstrong and McKenna Haase for joining us. Next weekend, Joe Koziski. Pencil this one in for me, please, because the guy's a little busy. So hopefully we can get Joe Koziski in here to preview the 2018 season at I-80 Speedway. We'll talk about the Crewman for a Day contest a little bit more. By the way, if you haven't gotten signed up for that, send us an email, frontstretchradio@gmail.com.
And who's going to be on with Joe Koziski? Are we having another Joey?
No, we're not, because you know how Joe goes. Joe knows how to talk. Joe's good at the words.
That's why you got the edit button.
So I've pretty much got half the show etched out for Joe to tell us what's going on at I-80 Speedway. But we are working on getting Derek Cope from Starcom Racing to come on and give us a little bit more of an insight from a team perspective of what the winners are going to be doing down at Kansas Speedway.
That'd be good.
For the Crewman for a Day contest. So both Joe Koziski and Derek Cope, they're penciled in, but Derek, you can double pencil. He's a little bit more firm that we're going to get him on the show. And that's going to be next weekend's show. We'll also review today's race at ISM Raceway, and then we will preview the race next Sunday for Auto Club Speedway. A lot of show to go next weekend. We are done for today. We appreciate everybody joining us. If you missed any part of today's show, you can find it on Facebook, on our Facebook page. At about 10 a.m., we'll post that and share it. Make sure you get to it and catch all the extended version of today's show. And then also, if you haven't gotten signed up for the Kansas Speedway Crewman for a Day contest powered by Starcom Racing and presented by Rick Havenbridge of Wealth Partners, you could do that by sending us an email, frontstretchradio@gmail.com. No dashes, no underscores. Doesn't matter if you capitalize a couple of them. Frontstretchradio@gmail.com.
Think about what the small percentage of the population is that's gotten to crew for an Earnhardt.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Do you think you can... No, I'm not going to make that joke. All right, we're going to be back next weekend. We'll do it all over again. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. This has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of The Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Soon the flowers will be blooming, and we'll all be busy enjoying the beautiful Midwest spring. With the arrival of spring, we all know ridiculous summer heat is just around the corner. A simple preventative maintenance plan from Eccles Heating and Cooling can make sure you're as cool as a cucumber during the hot summer months. Call Pat today for your preventative maintenance plan, or ask about a new energy-efficient Tempstar HVAC. Eccles Heating and Cooling is there for you at 402-331-1755.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.